It's a privilege to have Dr. Robert Garza joining us today. He's going to share incredible information about the community college, but he himself was appointed as the 7th president of Alamo College District in Palo Alto College in San Antonio. For those of you that might not know where Palo Alto is at, he was previously in the college in 1999. He came for a short stay. For some of us, we feel like it was a very short stay at Mountain View College in Dallas. And that's where he became a great friend for SARE, for our national office. Also, Dr. Garza received his bachelor's degree from Texas A&M. I know we have our CFO that is an Aggie, so I'm sure he's excited that we invited you, Dr. Garza. You continue your education and you received your doctoral on education administration from the University in Austin. And so welcome, and we would like to turn this over to you because I know you have a lot of really critical information that our community needs to learn. And at the end of the presentation, we'll ask you information about yourself because I would love for you to share a little bit about more of you and where you came from and how did you decide that you wanted to pursue a doctoral program. But it is so much great information that you have for our community. So thank you for accepting an invitation, and we turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rafaela. Truly appreciate the opportunity to be here today with SARE National and with all of you joining us virtually. I know that many of you all are thinking, why am I here? I'm listening to this old man getting ready to talk about college and what it means and what it takes and how we get from where we're going to where we're at today. But I'd like to start off with telling you a little story. I would like to talk to you about a young man that didn't have necessarily an idea or an understanding of where he was going, or quite frankly, what he was going to do after high school. And, you know, many times I'm faced with conversations with students and colleagues alike, and we talk about the challenges that our students are having. And perhaps maybe you feel like you might fit into one of these categories. So many people look at me and say, well, you know, you're Robert Garza, you're the president of Palo Alto College, you have a doctorate degree, and you're in this great place, and you're so smart, and you've worked so hard to get to where you're at. And some of that's true, and some of it's maybe not so much true. The truth is that I did work very hard to get to where I'm at, but I will tell you that it wasn't an easy road. I'll tell you that I'm a firm believer that we have to know, in order to know where we're going, we need to know where we're at right now, but more importantly, we need to know where we were and how it all started. You've probably seen in the media, people are talking about diversity and equity and opportunities. And I'll tell you that is something that resonates with me. And it also resonates with my corazón, my heart, at my college, at Palo Alto College, which we are often considered the heart of the community in the south side of San Antonio. And let me tell you a little bit about my institution and why my story relates so much with my institution. So my institution is about 35 years old, and we can go ahead and get into the presentation just to kind of give you like a little look of where we're at. But our institution is about 35 years old. We're an institution that truly cares about people. So we inspire, we empower, we educate our community for leadership and success. But 35 years ago, we were the college that wasn't supposed to be. And let me tell you what that means. Is 35 years ago, leaders within our community in San Antonio did not believe that education needed to exist in the Southside community. And in fact, there was this common understanding 35 years ago that the youth of the Southside community should go no more than middle school. They didn't need to go to high school. They didn't need to go to college. They just needed to get enough education so that they can go and get a job and work manual labor and to work in fields that were not engineers or doctors or lawyers and things like that. And in fact, I will tell you that the facility, the college in itself, was not built to last. When it was built, and really the community really came together to say we need education and we need higher education in the Southside community. And our community is a predominantly Latino community, low socioeconomic community, and people work hard, but 35 years ago, they didn't think that they really needed this education opportunity. So the community took it into their hands and says, we're going to do it. We need to do it. We need to move forward with higher education. And so the community at the governmental level said, yeah, okay, we're going to do it, but it won't last. We're going to open up this college. It's going to be a waste of money because nobody will come. Well, I tell you what, 35 years later, not only did the community come and show up, but we've done it better than everybody else. And so we're very blessed that we were recognized about a year ago by the Aspen Institute, really as being the #2 community college in the entire United States of America. So for an institution that wasn't supposed to even be in existence, here we are 35 years later, the largest enrollment in the history of Palo Alto College, well over 11,000 students, and we do it better than everybody else. And now we have community college from all over the country that contact us and say, how do you do this? And how are you doing that? And where's this coming from? Well, I will tell you that this is really personal for me, because with our institution 35 years ago, where people saying that you can't, you won't, you shouldn't, when I was in school, I heard the same thing. You can't, you won't, you shouldn't. And this is why it's also personal for me, because just like the history of Palo Alto College, it's very much like the history of my life. So let me tell you a story. So so this is where I know where I'm going, but I needed to know where I was to know where I'm at. So I started asking questions, in my 20s and my 30s, and and trying to figure out life and where things are. Well, I didn't come from I came from humble beginnings. My dad served in the Army, and he served over 20 years in the service. Which is a great thing, and served his country. But he grew up in the projects. There's 10 brothers and sisters, and they lived in a 2-bedroom project. And my dad, jokes when my grandmother would go to the panderia to go get pan dulce. So when they would get the pan dulce, they'd get the sweet bread, and my dad said that she would put it on the table, that everybody would take a little bite of the pan dulce, because you were marking the food that you were going to eat, because if you didn't do it, you would get nothing. And so very, very similar understandings, growing up, is that my dad found the military as his way out of poverty. And my mother is from Mexico. So when my mom came into the United States, didn't speak any English. She talked about how some teachers would try to teach her English, and thinking about teaching her English, they would grab her and stand her up and say, stand up. And they would grab her and throw her back in the chair and say, sit down. And they'd grab her again and say, stand up. And they'd throw her back in the chair and sit down. And my mom was telling me the stories, is that she goes, I didn't know what to do but to cry, because she was still in elementary school, and all she knew is that this grown woman was tossing her around, and the teacher is thinking that I'm teaching this student English, but my mom was fragile and frail, in the sense that she didn't understand what this lady was telling her, and all she knows is that she was being physically thrown around. And so when you hear these stories, as a son, I will tell you that I got upset. There's a lot of anger there, because I didn't understand how, as a society, we could not accept people from other countries or from, that spoke different languages or were different. And so for my mom, it was a traumatic experience for her. And so she also went through school not knowing where she was going, because in the fact, she got socially promoted in many cases, and she winded up graduating from high school, found that she was speaking, and one of my dad's friends from the Army was asked her one day, was like, well, why do you speak like that? She says, speak like what? Why do you speak like an elementary school child? And my mom is now, in her 20s, and she's thinking she's speaking perfect English. But when you're in the Valle, in Bronzeville, you sound like you're speaking perfect English, but then when you go into other parts of the country, people don't necessarily speak the way that you do. And so she was hurt and embarrassed, I think is probably the best word to say it, because she felt like she was made to feel like she was less because of her language. And so when I was growing up, I also learned that my mother wanted to marry my father, and my father wanted to marry my mother. And back in those days, and you all probably don't know this word, depends upon how old you are, but back in those days, my dad was also, before he joined the Army, he was, they called them pachucos. So my dad was considered like an OG, or like a gangster back in those days, an original gangster, I guess you could say. And and he wanted to marry my mom, and my grandfather told him, and says, well, he found his way out of poverty in the military, because my grandfather told him, hey, if you want to marry my daughter, you got to make something out of yourself and go into the military and be a man. Well, you all are a little young, but there was this war going on called Vietnam. And so my dad signed up. He wanted to marry my mom, came back and married my mom after Vietnam. And I joke with my mom and my dad, and my mom's like, you're right. My dad, it took him, I think, 50 years to understand it. But I was like, Dad, Grandpa was sending you to war because he was hoping you would not come back because you were not good enough for his daughter. And so they winded up, so he lived and he survived, and he exceeded, I think, my grandfather's expectations. And then they came together. But ultimately, neither one of them had a college education. They found and struggled together. They found their way, and after 20 years, he retired. And we moved around quite a bit when I was young. But ultimately, when I was going to my high school, it was in the Valle, it was in Bronzeville, Texas. And quite frankly, to give you an understanding of the high school that I went to, and my wife and I graduated from the same high school. We've been together since we were 17 years old, and started our relationship and pushed each other to do well throughout our lives. And our high school started out with 1,000 freshmen. So think about 1,000 kids that were freshmen in high school. By the time we graduated a high school graduating class of about 385 students, which means that if you went to my high school, you were more likely not to graduate from high school than you were to graduate. And so for me, and I'm honest about it, and I told you earlier that some folks are thinking, hey, he's president of a college, top 10%, he's kind of done these things. Well, when I was in high school, I had to work. So my dad, when he retired from the Army, found that he could not find employment. So unemployment was very high. It's something that we're experiencing right now with COVID-19, is that people are losing their jobs. So that back in the late 80s, that happened to my dad. So he didn't have the credentials for jobs that he applied for to support his family. He was enlisted, did very well as an enlisted soldier, but quickly came to a realization that the retirement dollars he received was not enough to support a family, 4 kids and a family of 6 overall. So my mom had a job at J.C. Penney's, and growing up as children, I can remember we also used to clean apartments with my mom. So in the military, when people would leave their apartments, in order for us to make ends meet and to make things go, even as far back probably as first grade as I can remember, we would clean people's apartments, and that's how we made extra money. I used to sack groceries at the commissary, and I worked for tips and things like that. And then when we went off to Bronzeville, my sister got a job at McDonald's, and then she hired me. So I used to work not part-time when I was in high school. I worked full-time when I was in high school. And my other sister worked at J.C. Penney's with my mom. And then we had this, my dad had this idea that he was looking at going to college so that he could take advantage of his GI Bill, but then also find that opportunity for employment. And so my dad said, asked me what I was going to do after school. And I said, well, when I was in high school, mind you, I graduated in the fourth quarter of my high school class. So I wasn't that top kid. I was a kid that wasn't supposed to go anywhere. So as I talked about my college was the college that wasn't supposed to go anywhere. I was a guy that people said, no, you can't, you won't, you shouldn't. And so when I would ask, nobody would answer. And that was very troubling for me. My best friend, Aaron Polanco, still good friends today, just talked to him earlier this week. He got accepted to this university called Texas A&M University. And his parents could not make it to his new student orientation. So he asked me if I could go. And I asked my parents said yes. This is 2 months before I graduated from high school, just about 2 months. And so I went with him to A&M and College Station. I didn't know places like that existed. So 2 months before I graduated from high school, I'd never been to a college before. I'd never been to a university. I didn't know what that was. I thought, I joined the military like my father and both my grandfathers. My father's father, Guadalupe, was from Matamoros. When he came into the United States, he joined the army and went into World War II. When my mom's father, Nieves, came in from Monterrey, he joined the army and went to World War II. My dad was in the army, so I thought, well, this is going to be my path. This is where I'm going to go. So when I came back from the orientation, my father said, "So what are you going to do? How was it?" And I said, well, Dad, I'm just going to go in the army. This is, what you did, and this is the way, and I think this is going to be my way. And he says, well, if you go in the army, you need to go in as an officer, and in order to do that, you need a college education. And he goes, and I'm going to go to college, and if I go to college, I want you to come with me. So I was like, what? So I started college with my dad when he was 43 years old. I'm a little bit older than he was back then. I went to college with my two sisters. And I went to college with my grandfather, who was in his 70s. And so we had three generations going to college at the same time. And mind you, this was new to all of us. We didn't know how to get there and what to do. And so that opening of my eyes that Aaron provided to me was just an amazing experience. So that was my first step. My second step was my dad making a commitment to education and commitment to me so that I can do well in school and to have that opportunity to succeed in school. And then my grandfather, of course, he was, email was just now starting out. It wasn't what it is today. And so he was also trying to better himself and learn about like what this technology is, because he also wanted to communicate with his grandchildren and everybody as things were going. And he's like, I'm in it. So I'm in it. So we all went, we took this journey together. And for a guy that wasn't supposed to go anywhere, that graduated from the fourth quarter of his class, that graduated from a high school that graduated less than 50% of the high school class, that had to work at full time. So my average day is I'd go to school at 8 o'clock in the morning and I'd have my day, and I was a football player and a basketball player. I'd do my sports after school. And then after that, I'd go put my uniform on and I'd go work at McDonald's every day till about 2 o'clock in the morning. And so when was the time for my school? When was the time for me to do what I needed to be doing educationally? But quite frankly, that wasn't necessarily important at the time, because what was important to me is supporting my family. because we had to pay for our mortgage. We had to pay for food. We had to pay for the car. We had to pay for gas. We had to pay for these things. And how do you do that if your dad's unemployed? So you got to rally around people, and that's really important. And that's one of the blessings that we have at Palo Alto moving forward. And so I share that story with you, and I'm going to kind of zip through some of these slides fairly quickly, because I share that with you because you're going to see some links at my institution of some of the things that we're doing that can help change the narrative, change the idea. Is college for me? Absolutely yes. Can I afford college? Absolutely yes. Can I make it if I'm not where I need to be right now? The answer is absolutely yes. The question is that what are you willing to do, and what sacrifices, if any, are you willing to make to get to where you want to go? So I understand the past, the struggles my parents and my grandfathers and those before me have gone through. I understand the successes that I have right now are because of people like Rafaela, like people that mentor and go out of their way to help others and simply care about people. I have mentors that have helped me all the way, that have not hesitated to pick up the phone or to answer my call if I need help, and to provide me with guidance and direction. And I will tell you that when I started college, I went from the back of the class when I was in high school to the front of the class when I was in college. And I will tell you that every single one of my professors knew me by my first name, everyone. Because if I had a question, I asked. I need help. I wasn't afraid to say, I need help. And as a Latino male, I'll tell you, sometimes that's very difficult for us to do, but I did it because I made a decision a long time ago, and I'm hoping that you're thinking about this decision as well, is that nobody should determine your future and your success. You have it within you, and if you have the corazón, if you have the power to move yourself up, you can do it. You can do it. And there are thousands of people out there ready to help you get to where you want to go. Thousands. But they don't know that you need the help unless you ask. So let's go on to this next slide. Let's start the story of Palo Alto College. And I know I'm going to start getting a little bit out of time, but this is going to really link to what we're talking about. So let's start about, you'll see Corazon. I love PAC, is really big for us. Student and community connections. And there's a program called Educate South that we're starting. We actually have partnered with a hospital called Southwest Hospital. So every time a child is born, we're not waiting to high school. We're not waiting to middle school. We're not waiting to elementary school. Every time a child is born in our community, they will receive a letter from myself and community members and community partners that says, congratulations to the parents. Congratulations on the birth of your new child. We know that they're going to do amazing things. And we're just so pleased that they're with us here today. And we're here to connect with you and start talking about college. We're starting the conversation early. And one of the things that we talked about is after the first year, after we get through this COVID, we're going to start having pachangas. We're going to start having different events at our institution because we want to have celebrations. So every time those children turn 1 year old, we want to have a birthday party at the college. We want the children to come in. We want their parents to come to the college. Let's go on to the next slide. So the first thing that we did is we went and did our coloring book. So we have primo and prima go to college. So if you have a primo, you need a prima. So we got both of them. And so this coloring book that we're going to give to all of our elementary school children is an opportunity for them to color. But what they're coloring is primo and prima in different educational programs that we have. So if you want to be a chemist, if you are a community garden, or if you want to go into theater, and we also have cultural relevant pictures in there. So we have ballet folklorico, so primas in our ballet folklorico, or we have Dia de los Muertos, so it's a combination of culture and it's a combination of academic programs that we have so that children can start thinking about, or that you can start thinking about, what is it that you want to do when you grow up or when you're in college, And this is a different opportunity, another opportunity for you to start exploring that just in a fun way. And so this is one of the areas that the programs that we put together. So let's go on to the next slide. And the other one is our Palomino Park. So we opened up a park. So at our institution, we have a park for children. So do we have, are all of these college students going over there and our youth? Absolutely, we say yes that they are, because we want children to come to our college. And again, changing the narrative so that students can come into our institution and have an experience like no other. So we have playgrounds, we have sporting areas, and they're not just for our students and community members at the college, they're open for everyone. And in fact, at our Palomino Park, we installed barbecue pits and picnic tables. And so we have one of the best parks in South San Antonio. So if you have a family event, we want you to come. It's open to everybody, because we don't want people to be thinking college is a barrier and I can't come in because college isn't for me, or that's that institution. No, we're a community, we're a familia. That's really important to us. Let's go on to the next slide. The other is that we had our very first Palomino pumpkin patch. Priscilla Lopez, one of our staff members, came up with the idea as we're talking about community. She said, why don't we have a pumpkin patch? She said, a pumpkin patch, that's a great idea. Because there again, we have parents and familia and children of all ages coming out to paint the pumpkins, to go into our hay maze, or to come in and socialize, and then more importantly, also to talk about educational programs that we have at the campus, and to dialogue and to interact and to intersect with those conversations. And so you'll see in these pictures, children of all ages. Let's go on to the next slide. The other is, and it's like through seasons, Winter Wonderland at Palo Alto College. Another event that we had a virtual one this year, but we also had a drive-through one with COVID-19. And I was talking to Rafaela a little bit earlier, is we had bumper to bumper traffic. We had cars surrounding our entire institution because we had this free event, because it was so important that we had our familias coming to our institution, again, having an experience so that kids and children can remember for years to come. And then the last thing that we have on the next slide is our Pack Fest, or Extravaganza. I'm sorry, we have Extravaganza, then Pack Fest. And so if you look at that picture, this is the largest egg hunt in San Antonio, the largest egg hunt in San Antonio. And if you can see that first picture there, the amount of children, and that's only one side. There was another side that's not in the picture of a whole other group of students that were running in for this big egg hunt. And this was after a winter or a rainstorm. So we were actually on a tornado warning. So we had to evacuate, and the weather was so bad that we thought we were going to have to cancel the event. And we had to put people in buildings across the college. And I tell you that with a little bit of luck and a little bit of prayer, the skies opened up. It stopped raining, and we got everybody out, and we were able to have this event. And we think it would have been twice the size if we had better weather. And we probably gave out anywhere from 30,000 to 40,000 eggs. But the sets were designed by our students. Everything was designed by our students. Our coloring book that I mentioned earlier was designed by Karen Mahaffey, one of our faculty members, and her students. So it's getting this intergenerational connection. And then the last thing that we have on the next slide is our Pack Fest. And so our Pack Fest, we get over 10,000 people from all over San Antonio to come in to Palo Alto College to celebrate Fiesta. In San Antonio, there's a really big thing is Fiesta. And so we celebrate like nobody's business at Palo Alto College, but it's intergenerational. So we always have music and games. We have a kids zone, the whole 9 yards. But what you're seeing here is an Educate South is we're trying to change the narrative for somebody like me who had never been to a college campus before, for our community, since children are babies, to say when they graduate from high school, I've been going to college my entire life. I went there for my first birthday party. I'd go over there for the STEM camps that we had. We went for discovery zones. We went for our dual credit, our early college, high school. or Alamo Promise, all of these things. But I've been coming to the Pumpkin Patch, the Winter Wonderland, the Extravaganza, and stepping foot on campus makes it a little bit more familiar and a little less foreign for us. So I think that it's so important to have these community activities, because folks might not really be thinking about it, but we are, is that we want to be intentional. As one is to support our community like nobody else has. And then the second thing is to have children and families come to our campus to change that narrative. Let's go on to the next slide. And so the other is the Palo Alto College. We created the soon-to-be world-famous, everybody's heard of mariachis, but soon-to-be world-famous marching mariachis, which is the only mariachi marching band in the entire country. We started that a couple of years ago, and it's been absolutely fantastic. We've been asked to perform at various venues, and in fact, we were going to be the first educational institution and the first community college to open up Fiesta in San Antonio last year, but unfortunately, because of COVID-19, that opportunity passed for us. But when Fiesta comes back into play and in person, we will be on that list to open up again. And so we're really excited. It's been a tremendous event. But what we were also trying to do is, so when students are graduating from their high school, that if you played an instrument, we're also looking for opportunities for you to continue to do something that you love to do. Because oftentimes people think of community colleges as commuter. It's like I go and I take my class and then I go home. No, when you go to your class, get the tutoring that you need, but get involved. We want you to be connected, because the more that you're connected with our institution, the more likely you are to succeed and to graduate and to move on to that four-year institution. So that's also another program that we had. Go on to the next slide. Athletics is also another big piece for us. So we created a baseball and softball teams, and we did have a tremendous turnout. So we do celebrate in very big ways. I'll tell you, when we opened up the baseball for our extramural, although we do not have a NCAA D1, 2, or 3 or NAIA team, the extramurals, our athletes are predominantly from San Antonio or from the surrounding area. That's one. When we opened up the baseball team, we had over 50 young men show up to try out for the team. It only takes 9 to play, and we had 50 young men show up. And here's the thing is that we didn't turn anybody away. What did we do? We created 2 teams. And we said, we'll support you because we want you to be successful. And we would do that for any of our sports, because we want people to be successful. We want our students to be successful. We want them to be connected. Our women athletes, our female athletes, outperform academically better than any other student on campus. Let me say that again. Our women athletes outperform academically every student that we have on campus. They're getting it done because they're going to tutoring, they're hustling, and they know what it means. And we're very intentional. You are a student athlete. You're not an athlete student, you're a student athlete. And that's really important for us. And so we were very successful in getting these programs started, getting them to continue so that our students could be successful. Let's go on to the next slide. Community garden, another big thing for us that we opened up last year. It's not as active, of course, with COVID-19, but it is active in the sense that we are continuing to grow fruits and vegetables. And we have donated about 1,000 pounds of food to our local San Antonio food bank during this time, so that we can pass out that to our community that are in need. And so again, another way that we're engaging our community in a very profound way and in growing to help our community and to help our students. Let's go on to the next slide. So let's talk a little bit about student impact. Let's go on to the next slide. So we implemented what's in Dallas. They have a program called Dallas Promise, which started off here in Texas, has been very successful. We started a program called Alamo Promise as part of the Promise Network across the country. And basically what we're doing is for students that graduate from high schools, predominantly for us, they're graduating from students from low socioeconomic high schools in our community and from our area, that they can come to college, earn up to 60 hours of college credit within a 3-year period, and then pay no tuition in fees. So when people say, well, I don't know if my parents can afford it. Well, if you're going to a Promise High School, your parents can afford it because they don't pay anything. The Alamo Promise covers those dollars, and that's really a big thing. The catch is the student, or are you willing to take advantage of the program and to do well and to understand that this is an opportunity? So many times we get opportunities, but it's what we choose to do and whether we choose to take that opportunity and be, to take that opportunity and be successful, or we say, you know what, that's just not for me. Take the opportunity, take that challenge. Let's go on to the next slide. So keep learning initiatives. One of the other things that we did, particularly with COVID-19, we invested as Alamo colleges, we invested $10 million for our students because we know that people were losing their jobs. They were being furloughed, but now people are they don't use the word furlough anymore. People are simply losing their jobs. So we wanted to step in. And so that's one of the things that we did, is that we invested about $1 million, almost $1 million at Palo Alto to the $10 million Alamo or for the Keep Learning Initiative. And our enrollment grew about 30% in enrollment in the summer because we were reaching students. And again, students have needs and we're answering those calls. Let's go on to the next. Student resource, the other things that we did is we provided hotspots. We've provided laptops to students. We also created a park and learn. We've also done student emergency aid. So if students have like flat tires, we help them with their flat tires. If students are having challenges paying for their childcare, we've helped individuals pay for their childcare, their electricity, their rent. We've been really making sure that we're providing a supportive opportunity so that students can really focus in on their studies and be successful. So it's really a big deal for us because we know that without your car, you may not be able to come to school. So if we can help you fix your car so you can come to school and go to your work, you're better off and you're more likely to be successful. We know that you can't come to school if you don't have reliable childcare. So we're working to make sure that we do that. We also know that people are working with food insecurity and housing insecurity, and we're working very hard to address those with our partnership with San Antonio Food Bank, as well as with the San Antonio Housing Authority. Let's go on to the next slide. So this is a pop-up market. This is one of the most humbling experiences that I've ever experienced, because we had the first go around, we had well over 200 families come out to Palo Alto College, a long stream of cars, and you're giving out food to people that are in need. And it's very tough because we have not only working with our students and members of the community, but there's babies in the car. And when you start thinking about that, you think about the children and what this family is going through at this particular time in their life. And you want to be as helpful as you possibly can so that either they're doing well in their education wise, but they're also doing well in life, because we simply have to care about people. Fundamental principle. Let's go on to the next slide. And so drive-through graduation. So just like across the country, it was one of the biggest challenges about having graduation. So we made sure that we had something our students could participate in. We had not only the graduate in one car, but oftentimes they had 3 to 4 to 5 cars following them because, the whole family was coming to celebrate, and we really had a full parking lot, truly an opportunity, and our faculty and staff showed up to have that event and celebrate our students with us. So another great opportunity there. Palo Alto College commitments, some of the things that we do for our students as well, or for our staff. I'm just going to skip down to the number 6, self-care. If you're going to be successful and do well, you got to take care of yourself first. And so that was real important to us. So this is 6 commitments for all of our employees. But what I tell folks is that we're going to do an hour and a half of self-care each week, and that they should schedule it. I don't care if they're taking a nap or working with their children or their significant other, or to go run an errand. You got to take that time to take care of yourself before that we can take care of others. And so that was a big one for us. Let's go on to the next slide. Community impact, and kind of wrapping this up here. Voting station, I will tell you that last year, before this voting piece, we couldn't get to be a voting site because there was this idea that people on the South Side don't vote. Well, you know what? People on the South Side do vote. And we need a voting site. And so this year we actually not only became a voting site, but we became a mega voting site for the city of San Antonio. So we're real pleased with that. particularly with the challenges of COVID. We do community plática, so we talk to businesses once a month to kind of get some dialogue of how they're working with COVID-19 or some of the strategies that they're doing. Right there in the middle, we're going to be opening up the Rio Grande. In 3 years ago, we had a groundbreaking. It's going to be the largest building that we have on campus. It's going to add about 21 instructional spaces, so classrooms, maker spaces, and advanced manufacturing technology, many others, dental hygiene. And then in another building that we're working on, we'll have a new nursing program. And so let's go on to the next slide. And so moving forward, this is kind of like the big one. We received a major gift. In fact, we have that fundamental principle that we care about people and we want people to be successful in life. And we've been pretty successful at it. And we're blessed and pleased that people took note. And so if you've heard the name Mackenzie Scott, she's an amazing philanthropist and author. And we were fortunate enough that Mackenzie Scott and her team recognized the work that Palo Alto College is doing and awarded us $20 million of unrestricted dollars so that we could support the activities and community connections and support our students in a very profound way and very much the ways that we're doing. And so we're going to be able to amplify that pretty much. Let's go on to the next slide. So it kind of has its three components: scholarship assistance, student and community advocacy, and continued access to higher education. So we're actually using some of these dollars to also support the Alamo Promise. Let's go on to the next slide. And so with that, I kind of wrap it up and kind of did the little speed at the end there and just say if there's any questions. So thank you again for having me, and hope that you enjoyed this presentation. I know sometimes when we're looking in a virtual area, it's a little hard to do, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Garza. I understand now why you say, the college and you have so many things that are either similar or in common, but it also allows our community to understand that they can do anything they want to do, because you don't have to be the smartest, you don't have to be the valedictorian. All I have to say is tener the ganas, the corazón, as you mentioned. So, I always love to say, si se puede, like Cesar Chavez. I think I'm going to change my phrase to now absolutely yes, but I'm going to put capital Y-E-S, because I think that's what people need to think about when they're thinking about what it is that they want to do in their future. And it is critical for our students to know that nobody can tell them what their future is except themselves. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm going to share a few of the things that people are saying already. They say wonderful programs to connect for the community. So thank you for that. There's also one that says it's the same Palo Alto college as the one in California. There's no relationship.
Correct? No relationship.
None at all. You just both happen to have the same name. One that says, college now it's for them. So I think a lot of the times also our students don't know the difference between a college and a university. And so you have made it something that hopefully our viewers can understand that college is for them, that they can take that. And so with that also, I'll take now some of the questions. But, you mentioned your background. And so earlier, before we got started on the conversation, I was going to ask you, when did you decide that you wanted to go to get a PhD? What made you decide? And now that we have a little bit of your background, at what point in your life did you say, not only an undergraduate, but now I'm going for a PhD?
Yeah, I'll tell you that, so a couple of things. One is I want to be upfront, is I started at Texas Southmost College. I started at a community college. So that was my gateway. And then ultimately had the opportunity to transfer over to A&M College Station and then my master's at UTSA. But the PhD was really a big thing for me, because there was a gentleman by the name of Dr. Pedro Reyes, who was at UT Austin, and at that time he was one of the vice chancellors. And when I was working at the University of Texas San Antonio once upon a time, this guy would not leave me alone. He would say, Garza, when are you going to go get your doctorate? Garza, when are you going to get your doctorate? Garza, when are you going to get? And I said, ayúdame, I need help me, because I need a break, because I went from my undergrad and I went straight into the master's program and I went into a little break. And he was at UT Austin. He says, look, he goes, I'm going to set up a meeting between you and the chair of the education program at in higher ed at UT Austin. He goes, I think you'd do a great job and you'd be a good fit. And he's somebody that I just met, and we would see each other at different recruitment events, and he just said, you know what? He set it up. I met with the chair. I connected with Dr. Duncan, and we had a lot in common. And as I recall, I was one of only 3 students they accepted that year at the UT program, at UT Austin program. And so I was really excited about it. But really, it took, again, another mentor, another person that saw something and said, you need to do it. And then when I received my doctorate degree, Dr. Rodriguez and Dr. Barrera, both at Palo Alto, shook my hand and said, welcome to the 1% Club. And I said, the 1% Club, what is that? And they said, well, you know that less than 1% of Latinos have their doctorate degrees in the entire country. And it's even less for Latinas. And so they said, welcome to this club. And I had no idea, again, of how the difference was. Only 1% of Latinos holding their doctorate degree. Que triste. But we're fighting to change that.
And I know you will. I know with you being in the college. So 2 more questions. One of the questions that came in is, why did you choose academia? Why didn't you go into, I guess, corporate America or somewhere else?
Well, I tell you that what I decided to do is, actually, after I received my degree, I was going to go into the Air Force. I was going to go in as an officer. So I had the paper, y todo, you know, all I had to do is sign on the dotted line and I was good to go. But I went to, I actually went to I did my physical at Fort Huachuca in Arizona, because my dad was, my parents were in Arizona at the time. And so I needed to get my physical, and I had to get a military institution or installation. So I went to Fort Huachuca, which is Army, but I was able to get my physical there. And then I found out that even though at that time I had 20/20 vision, I had color blindness. And so instead of flying planes, they told me, hey, you're not going to fly planes, you're going to fly a desk. And at that time I said, maybe I'm going to do something different. But also a gentleman by the name of Rick Gonzalez, now he's Dr. Rick Gonzalez from San Benito, from the Valle. So when I graduated from A&M, he'd asked me if I could help house students that were interested in going to college. They were from the Valle and exposing them to A&M College. I said, absolutely. I was president of the Rio Grande Valley Hometown Club back in those days. And so I was able to help out. But then when I graduated, my wife still had a semester to go. And so I was able to get a job in admissions, and then it just flourished from there. So I went from a part-time position to full-time, and I've been very blessed with the opportunities to grow in higher education. But original track was to go Air Force.
Well, I would have let you know that I think that was a great service.
yes.
So another question that we have from James that says, are college credits from Palo Alto transferable to most universities?
So it's a great question. And so the credits that we have to offer, 100% are usually transferable to any public institution in the state of Texas. Where it gets a little tricky is where you go to private schools or schools outside the state of Texas. So like for me, if a student were to graduate from Palo Alto College, they can take 60 hours of college credit and then go to A&M in College Station, or UT Austin, or Texas Tech University, University of Houston, or A&M San Antonio, and they'll accept all 60 hours. And what we've done is very intentional, is that students that take classes with us, we want them to take 60 hours, and we want 100% to apply to their degree. So we have these transfer advising guides that we have that will actually advise a student for the 60 hours that they're taking with us before they transfer. And they may not even graduate with an associate's with us, because if they work on the associates and they take classes that don't meet for their bachelor's degree, we'll actually advise them to take the classes that will work to their bachelor's degree, so that they can transfer and not lose any hours. And so we do have a major transfer program with hundreds of institutions that are wanting our students. And we just had a student, again, so, depends on where people want to go. We had a student last year that graduated from Harvard. So, I mean, it just depends. You start with us, you can go anywhere you want.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because I think that's really important for people to understand that this college has the students' interest, and they're more concerned that all of their credits transfer to an institution.
That's right.
That in some of the cases get the associate, and then they have some credits that don't transfer. So thank you for doing that. We have another comment that says, thank you for the work programs that you have, the personal touch you provide to your students and families and the community. God bless you and your staff.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you.
And other question is, what student financial programs are available for your students?
So we give out one of the largest amounts of financial aid, and so it just really depends. We do have scholarships that are available. We have our Alamo Promise that's available that within the next couple of years will be citywide for any public institution here in San Antonio. That's going to be the first step. So financial aid's first step, Alamo Promise second step, and then the third step is the scholarship opportunities that we do have available. And we also do encourage students to apply for work study, but also we have many part-time positions that we hire our own students. So if you don't qualify for financial aid or you don't qualify for work study, we have positions that are peer advisors, tutors, that will hire you as a part-time employee, so you don't have to qualify for financial aid in order to get employment. And so we prefer our students to work as much as they can at the institution, because we can be flexible with them if they have a test the next day or a test the following week, or they have to prepare for some academic items.
I have all in capital letters, much like I did my YES from now on. It says very informative, awesome presentation. So again, thank you for that. We are running out of time, so I have a couple. One that I think is very interesting that came in that says, of the books that you have read, if you were able, whether the person's still dead, is dead or alive, who would you like to have a conversation with? If any of those authors?
It's a very interesting question. One of my, and this is the managerial side, is this book called Death by Meeting. It's for anybody in administration knows what that is. And but it was a book given to me by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Jimmy Bruce, who became a president, and when we were colleagues, and he gave me this book, and I read it, and it's some things that I implemented, having these morning huddles and things like that. And so it's a book, and I would love to have this conversation with the individual, because their concept is that you should actually have more meetings than less meetings. And as time has gone by, I'm finding that there are so many meetings that I have that takes me away from what I love, and that's really interacting with students and in some of these communities. So I have to find this balance between the two, and it's very hard to do, because the author is talking about how we need to have more meetings, and I'm thinking maybe not so many. So, yeah.
So we have two more questions, and then unfortunately we keep on getting questions. So I will tell you that we will try our very best for any questions that you have, get with Dr. Garza and answer your questions, especially when they're related to college and information of the college, because we want to make sure you have all that information available to you. One of the questions that are SATs or ACT scores affect the placement of students in Palo Alto.
So I will tell you that we are an open institution. So we take everybody. We want you. We want you to come. And we have valedictorians that come to our college. And we have students that were just like me, that were in the fourth quarter of their class, go to the college. The catch is that when you go to college, that's where it all begins. That's where, however you did in high school or middle school or elementary school, you need to do well there, because you need to get prepped to do well in college. But once you get to college, that's where it all really begins. So we don't look at SAT, ACT. If you're at the top and you feel that you're ready for even more rigor and more challenge, we do have an honors program that students can find that gift. And then also that opportunity when you transfer to those four-year institutions, oftentimes like programs like Phi Theta Kappa, the National Honor Societies and things like that, in our honors program, there are also natural scholarship opportunities specifically for students in honors programs. So if you're already ready for that academic challenge, honors programs is definitely an opportunity. If you're not, that's okay too. If you do well in college, those transfer scholarships are going to avail themselves as well. But there again, it's up to what you do and how you manage your time.
And I have two more questions in closing, so I'm going to ask
Sure.
you both at the same time. So the first one is, you mentioned the Mackenzie Scott gift that you all received. I'd like for you to share with people a little bit of what it is. And because I happen to know you and have been, I consider it really, truly a privilege and an opportunity, a great opportunity to have a chance to meet you. But also, I think the reason why you all were selected to receive that gift is because of your innovation, your creativity, the leadership that the college and the district has. So I would like for the people to hear a little bit about that as well. And then in closing, are there any closing or advice that you would like to share with the students or the people that are seeing us, if they're getting information for their children, their grandchildren? What kind of advice would you like to share with them?
So great questions, and I'm going to try to mix the answers together. Is the first and foremost, at Palo Alto College, we are a college and community of care. Corazon is really where it's at, and I will tell you that Corazon, and we say we're also the beacon. We're a beacon of hope, and every faculty, staff, student, and community member makes our beacon, our lighthouse, really shine all that much more. And we were truly blessed that Mackenzie Scott and her team saw our light, and they saw what we were doing and the community impact that we were having, the student impact that we were having. And as I talked to Rafaela earlier, is that we didn't even apply for this. We didn't even apply for it. It was something that is amazing for us because Mackenzie Scott and her team recognized the work and validated the work that we were doing and that we do each and every day. And that is humbling because it is something that is amazing. Mackenzie Scott gave out over $4 billion in this last go. So we weren't the only ones that received. There were in fact 5 other institutions here in San Antonio that received dollars from the Mackenzie Scott gift. From our San Antonio Food Bank to the Lift Fund to the YWCA and many others. And so it was definitely an opportunity for us to do some transformational things. It's giving us an opportunity to do some transformational things. So we're very blessed to have it. We're very fortunate to have received it because people saw that the work that we're doing, the community touch. I would tell you as advice, and I think that this is one of the reasons why we were selected, is that if you work with Corazon, if you work with care, it will get you places. If you have that determination, and again, you choose your destiny. So you either work hard now or you'll work harder the rest of your life. I mean, that's something I tell my children, either you work harder or you'll be working harder the rest of your life. And I'll tell the parents that are out there and the students, is work hard, ask questions. If you don't know, don't take no for an answer sometimes. Sometimes that you'll have folks that really don't genuinely have your interests at heart, because you'll meet with a counselor and they say, well, I have 500 seniors I have to work with, and Robert Garza over here is in the 4th quarter of the class, so he's not interested. I need to focus in on those that are interested. It's not that I'm not interested, it's that nobody's ever talked to me about college before. I was never pulled into my high school counselor. I was never, hey, you have this opportunity. I had 2 English teachers, Miss Daniels and Miss Zarate, when I was in high school, that saw something in my writing that made me feel like, hey, I am smart. I am smart. I can do some things. But it wasn't that conversation of college. It was something that they saw that I had a talent. And it is a talent that I carry on today, that I'm a good writer and I'm a good editor and things like that. But, so my advice is work hard, keep that corazon, just care about people. I think we just need to care about people. That's a fundamental principle that we have at Palo Alto, is just care about people. If you don't know where you're from, find out, ask your parents. They have stories. And I think that it's important for us, particularly when we're young, is to understand the challenges that our parents and our grandparents and those before us have gone through because they gave us opportunities. My parents gave me opportunities. They didn't know that the struggles that they had were giving me opportunities, but they gave me opportunities. And unfortunately, I was looking more at work as that opportunity versus what could be, because they simply didn't know. But by having those conversations and asking questions and having that determination, that corazon, and caring about people will get you so far in college, in your familia, and in life. And I think that's really important. And seek out mentors. Look for people to mentor you. There's always somebody there willing to help, and they can help guide you to wherever it is that you want to go and connect you with the right folks. And so admissions, if you're a junior right now, think about next year, because that's it, senior year, that's when you need to apply. And when you apply to colleges, apply to 5 minimum. Apply to 5 colleges. And right now, for the seniors that are graduating right now and for the juniors that are juniors right now, a lot of universities are not going to be using the SAT and ACT this year. They're pulling it because of COVID-19. So there's questions about access to testing and things like that. And so it's a conversation. My son's a junior. Conversation that we had with him 2 years ago. Son, well, he actually texted us and say, "Hey, look, I don't have to take the SAT because they're not going to be considering it for my graduating year." And he said, "So if they're not going to have the SAT or the ACT, what are they going to look at? They're going to look at your grades. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how are your grades?" And then you see the eyes open. It's like, uh-oh, like reality check. So you've got to hustle and everything that you do, put your best foot forward, and you'll get to wherever you want to go. But if you do those things, you'll be fine.
Well, I'll leave the last comment that I thought was really important. It says, "Thank you for an amazing speaker, and I learned what a leader looks like." So again, Dr. Garza, thank you so very much for sharing the wonderful information, the impact that you have with our community and our students. Thank you for everything you do. And with that, Raul, we turn it over to you.
Thank you, Rafaela. Thank you, Dr. Garza. Great presentation. We have other comments, other people saying thank you, great information. There's another one that says, "Thank you, Dr. Garza, for sharing this new meaning of community college by including children activities. Thank you for your inspiration. You're doing great work over there. And I hope that other community colleges and institutions replicate what you are doing."
Can I add one last thing?
Go ahead, sir.
I do apologize. I read in one of the chats that we had a senior citizen that made a comment, and I want to just take a moment just to share one small piece. First, if you're a senior citizen, I know like at Dallas at Mountain View College, for instance, they have what's called an emeritus center. So if you're interested in getting involved in a college, if you're in the Dallas area, Mountain View College has an emeritus center, a partnership with the city of Dallas, which is an opportunity. In San Antonio, we're working on a multi-generational center. So we believe that senior citizens, folks that have that experience, and when I sat in the emeritus center at Mountain View, I was talking to a gentleman that worked for John F. Kennedy. So I was like, "Tell me more, because I want to learn from you." And so the more that we're able to get intergenerational opportunities, the better off we are. In fact, Palo Alto College has partnered with AARP. So for our older citizens out there, we've been doing cooking our demonstrations online virtually from things that we have picked from our community garden. And so there are some opportunities. And if you're 65 and older, oftentimes if you're interested in learning something new or going to college or taking some classes, oftentimes your tuition and fees may be waived. If you go in and look at going to any of your local community colleges, you can say, "Is there anything for senior citizens for those of us 65 and older?" And there might be something for you that you might be interested in. And so I'd ask and encourage you to connect with your local community college or university to see if you can audit a class and things like that. And oftentimes those tuition and fees are waived for you. So just wanted to share that. I know we're really out of time, but I just wanted to give that last piece out there because I did see that chat come through.
Thank you so much, Dr. Garza. And yes, some of the sessions that we are for students, others are for seniors. So please be sure to join us. And hopefully some of the sessions that we'll have will be very relevant for you. And hopefully, like Dr. Garza said, there's other ways that you can get involved regardless of the age. So please keep those questions coming or sharing that information with you, and we'll be able to get back to you. Thank you again so much for joining us.